So I wanted to do some gear reviews while I was out here, but because of the weather and the bugs and a few other factors, I really haven't had a chance to do much of that. But I will show you a few things that I brought. This is a tarp system that I put up yesterday because I knew it was going to rain. It's a McKinley sill tarp. Pretty impressed with it, actually. I used it on a winter camp this past winter, and it did just fine as more of a windbreak and a heat reflector. Had it pitched kind of vertically, I guess. Worked really good. It's very strong, completely waterproof, and it's fire resistant too. Sparks hit it constantly on the winter camp, and there's not one pinhole burn in it. I have it rigged up with some bungee cords on 3 points, and then paracord with a movable hitch knot, or slide hitch. That's what I call it. I don't think that's the proper name for the knot, but I usually like to have at least 2 points on a tarp secured with bungee because they have a little bit of give, and they ease a little bit with some strong winds, and then 1 or 2 with paracord. And I've just cut a tree down out of the forest. This is the only time I'll usually ever cut living wood out of the forest, is to get a good strong center pole so that when the rain lands on it, it doesn't collect. It just runs off. And with all the guy points on the tarp itself, there's a lot. With those, you can really fine-tune the tarp to get water to run off where you want it to run off. So very impressed with that. I'm not always impressed with McKinley's products. Some of them I find are really poor quality, but then other ones I find are really good. This sill tarp is one of the ones that are really, really good. The thing with McKinley, I find, is that they're either really, really good products or they're really crappy. The sill tarp and the table are two of the really, really good ones. I'm sure the table's just a knockoff of a better product. But they did a good job. They make a chair, a folding chair that I'll bring out as well, and I'll show you, which is also really good, by McKinley. And it's a knockoff of a Helinox camp chair, which is fantastic. But we sell both where I work, and the difference between the two is negligible. They're both really, really good. They weigh about the same. They pack up the same. I'm sure the material that went into the McKinley is a little inferior, but again, still really works. Another thing that I'll show you as far as kind of a gear review was a tent that we used kind of on the cuff. We didn't expect to come camping this week, and we were in between tents. The last one we had didn't really work out well, so we took it back. And the only one that I have is this one. But this tent is at least 20 years old. I got this tent in 1996 in Calgary. It was handmade in Canada. It's a Himalayan tent. It's a winter tent, really. It's essentially like a Gore-Tex tent. It's breathable, waterproof, doesn't need any vestibule at all. In its day, it was probably, I think it was about $1,100 or $1,200, and this is a one-person tent. This tent is a kind of a Rolls Royce of tents. It even has these little flaps on the side that come out to shed snow. The little peak up here, when snow builds up on it, it'll bend down and then it'll snap back up. It's got a ventilation system with these, I call them snorkels. I don't know if you can see that, but it has a little tie in the middle, so you can cinch them closed from the inside to close them off. Rain doesn't get in because it just sheds them off, because the tent is so thick. The interior of the tent is unlike anything that I'd ever seen before. It literally has it's almost like a felt, this really soft fabric. It's an absolutely beautiful tent. It's very thick, but it's still really, really light. And there's a door at either end. The setup on it is incredibly easy. It's literally just 2 poles. I'll do a setup video on it sometime. 2 poles from corner to corner on the inside of the tent. So there's no, sticking your poles in and then doing your hooks on. You could set this tent up from the inside in the rain, and I've done it. It's fantastic. The only problem I've had with this tent this week is that this tent sat in storage for almost 18 years since I've used it last, and the the denier on the bottom, I don't know if you can see, but it took on a little water last night. It is absorbing a bit of water through a few small places on the tent, but for a 22-year-old tent, that's not that bad. I'm going to retreat it, and that's all it should take. Just a spray. I'm going to use Gear Aid's waterproofing spray, and we're going to see how that works, but I can't do it until I get the tent totally dried out. But fantastic tent. The one we used is over here, which is Expedition Series by Woods. We don't carry, the company that owns the company I work for carries Woods product. We do not carry Woods tents where I work. Most of our tents are a bit more high-end than this. Their tents, kind of put them up there with, Coleman and tents like that. They work. They're passable. Usually the engineering in them is pretty good, but the fabrics they use and the construction, that's usually where they fall apart. And I think that's the same with this one. This one's a really good tent as far as its engineering. It's huge. It's got a lot of space. They call it a 4-person, which is ridiculous. As you can see me standing in front of it. This is not a 4-person tent. This is a 6 by its square footage. The front has got a questionable design on the door. I find these flaps here kind of get caught on the zippers. I know why they have to be there. It's to shed rain, because this doesn't come out very far. I'd rather have a full vestibule going down to the ground with a zipper. I think that'd be more optimal. There's actually a very ridiculous, stupid feature on this tent, and I'm going to show you right now. It's one of the biggest failings of this tent, especially in Algonquin Park with all the bugs. There's a little power pocket socket. Then this is proof that this is not, despite the name of the tent, an expedition tent. Expedition tents don't have any holes in them anywhere, and I can reach under here and poke my finger right into the tent. So if you're in a place like this where there's a lot of bugs, that sucks. Other than that, the setup of this tent was really easy, and I have a time-lapse video that I'll play in conjunction with this video so you can see how it sets up. But overall, I'd give the tent, I don't know, I'd give it a 2.5 out of 5. The only reason it didn't get a 3 was because of that little hole in the tent that allows bugs to get in, and the lack of vestibule in the front. But for what it is, for a weekend tent, if you're taking your family out to a campground or something like that, this will work fine. If you're spending time in the backcountry, I'd probably go with something different.